I apologize for there we go. Now it says you streaming
You're doing
live
a great
on
job.
YouTube.
You're doing a great job, Stefan. Don't apologize.
I feel a little bad because this is like the 6th time we've done a rock meeting over Zoom.
Well, each time is
spent
different.
half my day in Zoom.
I was on a Zoom meeting. I was on a Zoom meeting on Monday, and it took 45 minutes for the guy to set it up. So don't feel bad.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It was sort of funny, actually.
Okay. Started streaming on the YouTube page according to what I'm seeing there. There is actually one person watching live, so I'm going to apologize to that person. Sorry, folks who are watching online, that we got a late start. A couple of little technical glitches, but we are rocking and rolling now. Welcome to the June 2020 MBTA Rider Oversight Committee meeting. I am Stefan Wunsch. I'm the co-chair of the committee. I'm hoping that our other co-chair, Carl Seglin, will be able to join us, but if not, I'll try to do my best flying solo with your perseverance. For folks who are on the call, I would like to go around. I'll just call on people, just do a quick introduction so that everyone can say hi. I'm just going to go in the order that you're all in on my screen. So Amy, just give a quick couple of words. Amy, can you hear me okay?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. I thought I did this great introduction. I said it's Amy Locke. I'm a member of the committee and I haven't been here in a while and I'm grateful to be back.
Great to have you.
Thank you.
Brian, could you just say a hello introduction?
Sure, Stefan, this is Brian Lanchon, public member, also co-chair of the Capital Investment Finance Subcommittee.
Thanks. Craig. Craig might not be right at his computer. That's fine. Wig? Oh, I don't know if Wig's knows he's muted, but Karen, want to say hi?
Hi, Karen Lepsick. Hi, Rock member.
Cool, thank you. And Len?
Leonard Diggins. You probably can't see me, and but that's okay. I am a Rock member. I live in Arlington, and I am Brian's assistant as co-chair of the Capital Investment and Finance Committee.
So, Stefan, I unmuted. This is Wig Seymour, an early but not initial Rock member, about 15 years. I live in Somerville.
Thanks, Wig. Got you loud and clear. And Craig's connection says the audio is connecting. As soon as that happens, we'll let Craig say hi, and then we'll move into the business at hand. Oh, and I'll acknowledge, for the first time, I think, since we've gone to Zoom, Barry Steinberg is able to join us. I personally regard Barry as sort of an honorary Rock member, although not an official one. Barry is a longtime APTA member and more active in the Boston transit community than anybody else I can think of. So it's always great when Barry is involved, and welcome Barry for the first virtual Rock meeting. I'm really glad that you were able to join, even if it's just by telephone. You want to just say hi, just also to say hi and make sure that we can hear you okay?
Tell Barry to hit *6.
Barry, I don't know if you heard that. *6. Karen says is that for both muting and unmuting, Karen?
I don't know. I know I can unmute that way.
Okay. If it works for you, it should work for Barry because you're both on telephones.
Can you unmute him at your level, Stefan?
Oh, I didn't even think to try. Thank you.
There you
Barry,
go.
you're unmuted now. Sorry, I
Thank
didn't think of
you.
that before.
Nice to be here, even though I'm talking from isolation.
Understood. Well, hey, Barry, if you're not in a noisy area, shall I just keep you unmuted the whole time?
Feel free.
Okay, great. If I have to mute you again, I'll let you know. But if you're not in a noisy area, then probably won't be an issue. Well, welcome, everybody. Again, apologies for folks online and apologies to all of you for the late start there. Technical things always crop up, but I'm going to bring up on our screen the agenda as well as an item for later discussion that Len has submitted to us. There is the item for later, but I also want to bring up the agenda. Nothing particularly out of the ordinary as far as agenda goes. And again, thank you, Len, for doing the agenda.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just got stuck. I thought I hit send. Apparently I didn't. Yeah.
No problem. Excellent. I'm glad to see you, Carl. Thank you. I'm going to make you a co-host of this Zoom, as I did for Len and Brian. Oh, and since Craig, yep, we also got Craig. Okay, so I believe at this point the entire executive committee is now co-hosts, again, in case I have a glitch. Since I already have this up on the screen, again, I'm only showing this document from Len's draft now, so that sort of like a virtual handout was my thinking. Normally, if we were in person, we would have, in most cases, a physical handout to pass around. So I thought, how about at the beginning of the meeting, we show this that Len wants to discuss later. That way we can have a chance to read it. And then under the new business and other issues section of the meeting, we can actually have the discussion and the vote. Any concerns about that? Any reason not to go that way?
No, fine.
Okay, cool. Len, do you want, for the benefit of Karen and for Barry as well, who are just on phones, would you mind just doing a quick summary? I don't think you need to read the whole thing, but I want to give the opportunity for them to have a full understanding of what this draft letter is, even though they can't see the screen.
Sure. It's a draft for the MPO's Unified Planning Work Program. It's an annual set of studies. Let me rephrase that. Every year they select studies that are going to be done for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. And so this is just our comment on those studies. And so that's essentially it. And
Okay. Oh, sorry to cover that for a second. Let me do that. There we go. How are we for folks having a chance to read this? Want to go another 30 seconds to another minute?
I'm ready, but let's wait for others.
I read it on the email, so I'm in good shape.
Okay, sounds good. So moving on to our first section. We're a little late again, apologies for that. Any public comments?
Yes, this is Karen. I'm making a public comment about bus service, and since I only take a few of the buses, I think it pertains to the whole rest of the bus system. So I have a garden in the Fenway, and I pick up the bus 55 at Ipswich and Boylston Street. When I'm finished at the garden, I take it to Copley, and then I get home. On June 16th, I waited for the 3 o'clock that starts at Queensbury, did not come. So at about 25 after or so, I called. I was standing in the sun. There's no place to sit. I called to complain to the MBTA. I called the number. Of course, you have to press 1,000 different things till you get a real person. And she took the information and she said they'd get back to me. Well, I waited for the next bus, which comes at 3:40 from Queensbury. That did not show. Then I think the next day I got a comment went to my voicemail to say, oh, we're so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And obviously they did not do anything about it because Wednesday, I went to on the 17th, I went to my garden. The bus did show up. However, on Thursday, I was in a different area of the Fenway, and I got on the bus at Queensbury, the start of the bus. Well, sure enough, the bus went the wrong way. It did not stop at Ipswich and Ipswich and Boylston. So, my complaint is this going on in other parts of the city where they get a driver who doesn't know the route? They don't tell them. You complain, and obviously they did no follow-up on why the bus didn't show. They obviously didn't find out if it was a new driver, if it was just some cranky old lady. Anyway, so my complaint is that happening somewhere else in the city? Because as environmental justice is my thing, and obviously Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan are serviced by bus systems. Does this happen on those bus routes? And another thing, I have a couple of other complaints, but I'm only going to complain about this one. I often go to take the Orange Line. From Copley, I walk over to the Orange Line. I take it to Forest Hills. At Forest Hills, I get the Wren Street, which is a 38 bus, which gets a half a block or a block away from where I live. So it's very convenient when I'm carrying garden stuff home. When I wait at Forest Hills, it'll say the 38 bus is coming in 10 minutes, 7 minutes, blah, 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 up until the bus has arrived. Well, it has not arrived. So you wait a few more minutes, and all of a sudden it says the Wren Street will come in 37 minutes. Well, the first time that happened to me, I went nutso. It happens all the time. The bus that is supposed to come at a certain time does eventually come. So I was at Forest Hills, I've forgotten what day, and there was a poor woman there who needed to go somewhere on the 38. She didn't know the area, and she went crazy, and I said, not to worry, the sign is lying. So obviously what happens is if it doesn't arrive within that certain time, the sign assumes it's not coming. Well, it is coming. So those are my two complaints. And I'll say one good thing. There's hand sanitizers at Back Bay Station. I have no idea why. It's very nice. And also the elevators all smell like they've just been cleaned. That's it.
Thank you, Karen. That sounds like we've got a lot of items to take up at the operations subcommittee. I hope you can bring all of those up when we have that subcommittee in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I will, and I have additional ones, but I won't. It's not necessary to bring them up now.
Oh, understood. Yeah. If you have a chance to, maybe you and I can talk. I mean, since you are a member of the committee as well as making public comment, maybe you and I can go over some talk between now and the subcommittee, and we can write up those and have a focused list of bullet points where we can ask Dave Carney about the bus specific ones.
It's not Dave Carney's fault.
He's our bus operations designee, so it's
I know, but it's not his fault.
Specific questions.
I love Dave anyway, but it's not his fault. They don't have enough money. Let's move on.
Okay. Barry, do you, anything that you want to say during this delayed public comment period?
Not at this stage. Unfortunately, I haven't been on the T since the 15th of March, so I've been at home. That's all I can say. So I have no comment.
No problem. There's someone watching on YouTube. Well, there's at least one person watching on YouTube, but one person has put in a chat comment question. So I'm going to bring that onto the screen now. And that way it can be shown, and I will also read it out for benefit of Karen and Barry. Tell me if this loads properly like I think it will. My computer seems to be
It
struggling
looks like
under
it's
the load.
trying. Yeah, it looks like it's trying to load.
Okay. Give that up. There we go. Okay, great. Let me see if I can make the font a little bigger. Oh, and again, as you can probably tell, this is not necessarily in order. I believe, strangely, what I typed, I think, is in chronological order, but I think what Tori said might not. Well, anyway.
The content's pretty clear.
For the benefit of Barry and Karen, my name is Tori Antonio, and I'm a member of the Green and Open Somerville I'm here to bring awareness of Somerville's need to use GLX corridor to replenish our green and open space. There are members of the community and the Urban Forestry Committee who want to work with GLX, the state and the city, to create a design that will restore the ecosystem and create a green corridor to increase residents' health and give a safe haven passageway for wildlife. Thank you, Tori, for watching and for commenting on this. I don't know if we can really respond to that right now. We're a little behind schedule, but I know, Wig, that's something that you were working on. Is there something quick that you want to mention about the current status of that?
Well, yeah, so I know Tori pretty well locally, and I appreciate, Tori, that you dialed in here. In the back of my mind, and I haven't talked with anybody about this, I wonder if we might ask John Dalton, who's the project manager for the Green Line, to come sometime soon to the Rock and talk about what the project is going to look like when it's handed over basically to the T and to the community of Somerville. Right now it's effectively sequestered in a separate project management approach. But they're moving very quickly and, really flat out. And so the project is midstream. But there's growing concern, as you've heard before, in Somerville about what does this corridor look like when this project is done with it, and what kind of handoff can there be to the community with regard to input on regreening the corridor to the extent that there's space to do that. And I wonder if we could host John Dalton to talk about that topic to the Rock, and any members of the public that wanted to dial in could do that as well. Just a thought.
I think that's great. Wig or Tori, if you have contact information for John Dalton, could you let me know? And one of us, me, will invite.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get that to you. Neither Tori nor I are. There are station reps, both in every community in which there's something going on. So Cambridge, Medford, and Somerville. But neither Tori or us or me or I are a station rep. So, but we can find that information out quite easily and get it back to the committee. And I think that would be appropriate. We haven't paid that much attention to the Green Line. I don't like to overdo it because I live in Somerville and I want to pay attention to all of the Rock's issues. But I think this would be an appropriate topic.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think at this point we're through with the public comment period, again, delayed. So let's move on to the subcommittee reports. Brian or Len, want to take the floor?
Sure, Stefan. I'll start, but I will ask Len to help out because I know I missed the first bit of the meeting there, unfortunately.
Sure.
So this month for the June CIF meeting, which happened last Tuesday, we had a very nice guest. As always, thanks to Len. This was Brian Kane. Brian Kane is the replacement for Paul Regan on the advisory board. So the advisory board, I think we've talked about it at length in the past on the Rock, but they are a representative body of the cities and towns that are in the MBTA region. So the advisory board is a method for those cities and towns to have oversight over the MBTA. And the advisory board puts out an annual report on the operating budget. So we talked about that a little bit, obviously. Some of the highlights there, Brian obviously echoed what we're all thinking, and that it's going to be a very difficult next 3 years for the MBTA. They've baked in a lot of assumptions about ridership, about service levels, but that's all really dependent on getting federal money to continue operations. There's definitely a bailout that's needed. I think the size and the scope is still to be determined, but without a huge infusion of cash, and I think they're planning to get again somewhere on the order of $750 million already. I don't even know. I think my recollection there is that even that's not going to be enough. I think that gets us through the next year and a half, and then after that, kind of remains to be seen. We talked a little bit about what's next for the advisory board. Brian, first of all, he's got a great relationship with the MBTA. I think a long working history going back and forth. So I think a very good and knowledgeable successor to Paul Regan. I think we'll be able to provide an effective oversight role. But some of the things we talked about were how does that look going forward, and I think as we've talked about in the past, it depends a lot on the FMCB structure and MBTA governance structure going forward. Potentially, there could be a seat at the table, so to speak, for the advisory board. I believe the 2 legislative proposals both include an advisory board seat. I think one of those proposals included a dedicated seat for Boston, and then the other one included more of a wild card. So I think Brian's thoughts there would be nice to obviously get representation from Boston, but if Boston had a seat and there was another seat available, that it would be a municipality that is a little bit outside of the core. We also talked a little bit, one of the themes we'd always talked with Paul Regan about was the need for new revenue for the T, even before COVID and upended everything. And Brian actually mentioned that he worked with Paul on a lot of his research and background on that. So he echoed more or less everything that Paul talked about in terms of needing to find an alternate revenue source. I think their focus is on, I shouldn't say focus, but one avenue for that is through real estate. I think the proposal they put forward is an excise tax on the sale of real estate. But at any rate, a dedicated funding source for the T would shore up finances. I think they've recognized that the sales tax has been essentially under some of the initial projections, and that hasn't provided the revenue stream. So that's my takeaway from the Brian Kane discussion. Again, I missed the first half. Len or anyone else that was there, anything you'd like to mention about the talk?
So even though you missed the first half, Brian's presentation, you summed it up. I mean, what the meaningful part of his discussion with us. I mean, so I really don't have anything to add that would be significant. Thanks.
All right.
This is Wig. I'd like to add a comment if I could.
Of course.
For many years, it's been obvious that Massachusetts has lacked the courage that some other states and metropolitan areas have with regard to funding transit. And I think we're at a loss for not having a comparative analysis of that. I've heard that T for Mass has done some analyses of toll practices and fuel tax practices in other states. I compiled that stuff probably 5 years ago, but I haven't done it since. And I've also done things like look at CTEC in Seattle, which has vastly more robust funding for transit in a competitive region with our economy. And so I think that's something that we should put some energy into finding. We're just never, I mean, it's ridiculous to have all of these fossil fuel based transportation modes and to be taxing real estate. You know, what is that? It just doesn't shift the transportation paradigm. And I certainly recognize the difference between Western Mass and metropolitan Boston and understand the different needs of the two regions. But this region is not a leader at transit finance by a very long shot. And in the absence of having some summarized, clear information about that we are handicapped. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I think it would be worth a little searching to find out who has this data in a good form that we could take advantage of. Otherwise, one of us, I think, will have to go back and do that research. Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Swig. All right, moving on to some of the other discussions that we had. As usually, we look, or Len looks at some of the FMCB presentations. The one that stands out to me is the exploration of, I'm kind of blanking on means tested fares. So for low income riders, the T is back to exploring the possibilities there. I forget where we've left off with that discussion, but I think in the past when we've talked about it at the CIF, we're supportive of that, but also very interested to see what a proposal would look like, how it would be administered, how it would come together, and what it would mean for the riders, and I think what it would mean for the rest of riders that don't meet the low-income criteria. So making sure that it still has a strong ridership base overall. Len, were there any other FMCB updates that you recall?
No, that was the only one that I really focused on, and the T has done some webinars. I mean, on the means tested process, or the process in which they're going through to develop a policy for means testing. And so I need to go back and look at the one or two that have taken place, and I think they are on the T's website and under presentations. I think in the same section where you go to see the FMCB presentations, you can find the link to those webinars. So, I mean, Brian Kane had actually participated in one, and he recommended it. So I'll check it out.
All right, thanks, Len.
Sure.
And then one last question for you. I can't recall. Are we planning to get a guest for the July meeting?
Well, we haven't ruled it out. We haven't decided on who it's going to be yet. So if anyone has some ideas, it's fine. Otherwise, I will start thinking of someone probably after this meeting.
I don't. Not to ask you to do work. I couldn't remember if we had talked when you had said you were going to contact somebody. I think now, I don't think we had planned on it, which is fine.
Yeah, and I don't mind. I mean, I just hadn't really thought about it at this point. And so, if there's a topic though that comes to mind, or someone specific, let me know, and we'll work at it from there. Were you done?
I think that's the recap that I had. Nothing else for me to add. I don't know. Again, if you have anything else, but
sure. Well, the only other thing is governance, and so actually, I guess you brought that up. Never mind. You brought it up. Never mind. So when you talked about Brian Kane, you talked about the Senate in the House bill. So yeah.
Yep.
So we're coming down to the wire, and I don't know how much I can say about things. But it looks like it'll be a little interesting. So that's it. Sorry to be tantalizing like that. It's just so many people are telling me things, and I can't remember who says to me, don't say anything. So what happens now is I just kind of assume everyone is in that state. But at this point, though, I will say that if you want to say something, to folks, it's probably not too late to say anything. And I don't know if we have enough time, as a committee to get a letter out. But as individuals, I would say if you know someone on the Joint Transportation Committee, or Joint Committee on Transportation, feel free to reach out to them. In particular, Will Strauss, I think if you mentioned the Right Oversight Committee, his ears will perk up a little bit. So that's that.
Ms. Lund?
That's it. Yeah, I'm done.
Any questions from any other members of the ROC, or anything that you'd like us to explore at the next meeting?
Well,
Sounds
I
good.
would say this topic is really timely. The more time we can look right now at transportation finance, transit finance, I think the better.
Good. All right, thanks, Stefan. Move on to marketing, communications, and operations.
Absolutely. Thank you both very much. Thank you all. I'm going to stop the screen share just momentarily. But before I do, I just want to point out, I realized during your meeting updates that I simply needed to drag my Zoom window into the part of my computer desktop, which is being shared, in order to be able to show all of you. So it appears that what I was saying earlier about having your video turned on, even with it covered, doesn't apply now that I realized that I just can put this part into a shared screen. So I think Craig, Brian, Carl, feel free to turn off your cameras if you want, because I just realized by dragging this in here, this is showing up on the YouTube video just fine. Again,
I appreciate
up to you.
Craig's approach there.
It's like the Matrix.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, pardon me while I stop the screen share, only because I got to pull up the committee notes. And I hope that this pulling up my notes from a different app is not going to cause everything to explode like sometimes it has, but bear with me. If I'm not back in 30 seconds, send help. So far, so good, I think. I'm hoping to actually bring up the notes that I took from the subcommittee meeting on the shared screen. And it looks like it's going to work. Alrighty. So now I should be able to do this. Our guest. Before I begin talking, everybody okay still? I mean, I didn't lose the connection bringing up these notes in a different app. Everything's still going okay?
Okay.
We're not seeing the shared screen though.
Ah, yes, I've got to hit this. Thank you for the reminder, Carl. Now we should be back in business with this, and bring this. Oh, it looks like every time I share my screen, I can pull back this window.
Yep, now we have the notes and the grid.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to make the notes a little bit larger. I haven't edited these at all from when we had the meeting, but there was nothing that we discussed that was sensitive. It just, if I remember correctly, you gentlemen and Karen, sorry, folks, remind me. I believe everything here was simply just not ready for public discussion, but it's all been announced. So a summary for Barry and for Karen, and again, Karen, feel free to, and other folks, add in if I've forgotten anything. We were talking primarily with Logan Nash about the real-time data and how they are using the passenger counters, the acronym being APC, automatic passenger counters, on the majority of the bus vehicles in order to be able to get a real-time sense of what the crowding level is. I won't go into the technical details, but I think it's worth mentioning that they discovered by some deep inspection of the technology that was already in place that the automatic passenger counters were in fact sending live data, which they didn't even know was there, up via the same data channels over the radio system that are used for the GPS position, speed and location. So being able to leverage data that was already there, but they didn't know was there, is a sign of great outside the box thinking by the agency, I think. That's my personal opinion. And they went live with a number of routes for the real-time crowding, as being showcased by the transit app. I believe is the only other app that's out there right now other than the website. And when you're ready, I will pull up this, again, 2-minute brief news report, which I think summarizes the situation very well on top of the meeting that we had with Logan Nash. Anything that anybody else wants to add about this before I bring up this, well, again, quick news that's the official release for the real-time tracking? I have to stop the share and start it again. Stand by 1 sec in order to capture the audio, which I realized is also possible. So if this goes as expected, you should hear the audio as well. Okay. Is the screen sharing working okay?
It says it's starting.
Oh, no, I got an error from doing it with audio, so I will just have to hold my headset microphone up to it. I'll try to work this out for next time, but in the short term, we'll try to make this happen.
MBTA is increasing service as more and more people are getting back to work. News Center 5's Josh Berger here live for us at Ashmont Station in Dorchester. Josh?
Internet, the MBTA is back on schedule, but it doesn't mean the riders are hopping on board.
It hasn't been anything that dramatic. There haven't been any sort of changes. We expect that this will be a slow return to work.
And that's what we saw at the Ashmont T station in Dorchester during what we all used to know as the morning rush.
2 weeks ago, a little bit, but now, maybe busy. Yeah, busy, yeah.
Phase 2.2 means many more businesses are opening in Massachusetts, but with many still working from home, mass transit numbers, though increasing, are still lagging behind. The T is ramping back up to its normal subway schedule, but the GM says train ridership is only at about 15 to 17%, and buses are at 30% of capacity, and the summer months are typically slower.
I think we're certainly going to see that on the commute around. We're watching carefully as well as universities, how they open up, if they open up.
As part of the Ride Safer initiative, changes you will see include new signs, new sanitizer dispensers, and tea ambassadors handing out masks during peak times, which are required to get on board. And though just about everyone we saw already had one, the use of face coverings won't be enforced.
Some people wear masks, some people don't. Can't really say anything, so I definitely feel a little more apprehensive as like things are like starting to open back up.
Well, as for fewer riders, there has been a significant financial hardship according to the T's GM. We asked if there will be another fare increase. At this point, he said it is too early to tell. We're live in Dorchester. Josh Brigadier, WCBB News Center 5.
Josh, thank you. And as you just heard in Josh's report, the T's general manager saying people are returning to bus routes in greater numbers than they're seeing on subways right now. So they're closely monitoring crowding, letting riders do so too. News Center 5's transportation specialist Katie Thompson explains. People are getting back on buses. The T ramping up service on nearly 60 routes just this week.
One of our challenges, I think, is making sure we've got capacity in the right places.
Avoiding overcrowding is something the T wants riders to help with too. Real-time crowding info is now available inside the Transit app or on the T's website. Under schedules, find the bus line, then click on its location. You can see it described as crowded, not crowded, or having some crowding.
So you can make a decision if you have that flexibility, whether or not you want to get on this bus, wait for another bus, or maybe think about traveling at a different time of day.
I found the Transit app, while it advertises the crowding tool, was confusing to navigate. The T's website seemed much more user-friendly. Right now, we're at Forest Hill Station, keeping an eye on the Route 16 bus, which, according to the tracker, has been crowded at some points this morning. Right now, I can see that it's on its way to Andrews Station. It's showing that it's not crowded. If it were, I guess I could consider the other option of taking the T. People I talked to say not everyone has that option.
There's not much they can really do if they have to take the bus, you know. Not a lot of people are willing to wait for it.
If you do have the flexibility, the crowding tool is a good place to start. It's only available for 9 routes right now, but could be available for wider use in the future. In JP, Katie Thompson, WCBB News Center 5. New on 5, you.
Boy, Stefan, that was excellent.
So it's interesting to hear her call the train the T and the bus. So it's like, I could wait or I could take the T. Yeah. But it just goes to show how much people really don't think of the buses as the T. And also, with respect to the people using the buses more, I wonder if it's because the buses are free, and so I just wonder.
I actually don't think. This is Karen. I actually don't think so. I think no. A lot of people still are trying to get on at the front door, and the driver has to wave them back. No, I disagree.
I said I wondered. I didn't make a statement. I just said I wondered.
No, okay. Well, I also. Okay. Also, on the thing of calling the subways and the trolleys the T. But also calling commuter rail. The commuter rail is the T. They don't say thank you for riding the T. They say thank you for riding commuter rail. So it's obviously a hierarchy. Commuter rail, top drawer. Subway, buses only for the hoi polloi.
Yep, I agree that at some point in the future we ever return to not yet. When we return to a sense of normalcy, on my short list is to get somebody from MBTA marketing back. I miss Rose Yates and the connections that we had with her, but that's definitely an opportunity to improve on the messaging of the lines, and that consolidation of the service into one unit needs to be done.
Hey, Stefan, this is Wig.
Go ahead, please.
The sound, the video came across it really well, including the sound for me. So I just wanted to give you that feedback. It wasn't screechy. It was very clear. I have two little questions. I haven't seen the hand sanitizers in the stations yet. I've been using, the T generally. Not when I can walk, but I haven't seen the hand sanitizers. Are are they? Do you have to touch anything to get the sanitizer out, or are they kind of a line of sight block that releases it? That would make
I believe it's contactless. I believe there's a sensor, and you simply wave your hand underneath, right?
Well, I don't know about that. The only place I've seen them is at Back Bay Station. That's the only, or Back Bay. That's the only place I've seen, and I've seen one, and I put my hand underneath it, and I don't think I think I just had to push it up. I don't think it's it might be a I didn't pay attention to it. I just put my hand underneath, pushed it up, but I've only seen it that one place. I haven't seen it anywhere else.
It would be really excellent if it was contactless. That would make a difference. And I just want to throw in one other thing here. The buses, it's pretty clear that people are safer in open air than enclosed spaces. And that makes me wonder whether it might not be a good idea to leave the bus windows open when it's not raining, so that you'll have air circulating through the buses. You know, I think some of these things are coming out as experience is gained, and there's a steep learning curve on COVID-19, even among the leading edge science community. But they seem to really have concluded that being outside is a lot healthier air-wise, and with regard to possibility of contagion, as compared to being indoors. So that can't help you on the subway, but it could help. It could help the bus riders if that's deemed to be true.
Often on the buses, even if the AC is on, the skylight or whatever you call that thing in the roof is often open.
That's a good. That sounds good to me, Karen. I'm glad to hear that. And just on bus schedule, because Karen had some good comments on that. I'm finding some of the bus routes are right on schedule, and some of them are much more random. In the ones I ride in Somerville, and I'll look. You know, I look sometimes at the schedule before I venture out, and there's a big difference in from one route to the other in that regard. I don't know what's driving it, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm appreciative, and the bus drivers are by and large excellent, and the behavior of the people on the buses I ride is very good as well. So.
I got to say also, or not also, but again, thank you for watching that video. I thought that was particularly concise in showing the hand sanitizers and the customer service agents even handing out PPE, as well as the demo that the reporter gave of the transit app showing the crowding. I didn't think that I'd be able to demo an app on my phone in a way that was going to be as concise as that. Talking about the real-time crowding information some more. Again, it's in my notes that I'm sharing on the screen, but for the benefit of Barry and Karen, it's only on 6 routes right now, and there's concerns that they have about the accuracy of the data, particularly because it relies on the radio signal, and in many parts of many routes, there's no radio signal from the bus because it's either in a tunnel or it's just in a poor service area. And according to Logan, the passenger counter data that does go over the radio channel, that is the real-time passenger counter data, is only the changes. So in other words, 5 people got on, 2 people got off. It's not an absolute count. So if the vehicle goes into a tunnel or loses the connection and 30 people get on, that information is not captured, or sorry, actually, it's not in the real-time data, and the that 30 people boarding isn't available until it's getting into the garage. So that's one of the challenges they have with getting that real-time crowding out to all routes. And it sounded like there's no expectation that it would even be possible to go to all routes because of that that technical limitation. But So I guess a point for discussion is, what kind of a priority do all of you think should be made on putting the vehicles that have passenger counters in the first place onto routes where there's known to be holes, even if some data is better than no data? I mean, should we encourage the T to spend the money and resources to try to reallocate the vehicles in some way that they might not be doing, because the crowding data would be so important for some routes, for some communities? I think maybe that's the bigger question is, what kind of data do people want, historical or real time? And if it's real time, should we recommend that the expenditure of time and effort be done to focus on certain routes in certain areas?
I think, this is Wig, I think they should be creatively flexible at this point. So if there are routes that are typically overcrowded and there's no break in the chain of information, then that would obviously be a sweet spot. I'm also wondering, though, if they might pilot test. There are some applications where they use infrared or something like it to actually identify how many people are in coffee shops and where they are, and they track them over the time, the whole day. In that case, they get a full data set the whole time. So because that's basically in the room, there is no lost information, and they can see the crowding, and they're not reliant on an inventory that is kept accurately and continuously. I know that there were some graduate students at MIT who developed some of that stuff probably 4 or 5 years ago, and there's probably some other people who have thought to do the same thing. So that would be one solution. But in the meantime, I think we and the T have to be flexibly creative. I don't think that there's a high likelihood of guessing right out of the gate a perfect solution to some of these situations.
Oh,
Yep, understood. Just for a point of information, Wig, there's no data that's lost from the passenger counters. It's just a matter of whether it's available in the real-time feed of
No,
how
I
many people get on,
understand
get
that.
off. Okay.
Right, I got that.
So a question,
and-
Stefan, when you talk about tunnels, I mean, are you talking about the South Station tunnel, or are you just talking like the tunnel, the Ted Williams tunnel?
Oh, even the Harvard Busway tunnel, I believe.
I see. I got you. Okay, so
I
those
think
tunnels
Logan, or at one point in the past, we've talked about how many of the tunnels, including Harvard Busway,
I got you.
are data blockers,
Right.
simply because the radios are not
Gotcha. Understand.
able to get
Okay.
connected everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing I would say in terms of your question, I mean, look, I love that Logan worked on the crowding stuff. I mean, I think it's an interesting challenge. I mean, and I would never want to discourage anyone from doing that. But I think the resources should be dedicated towards keeping the crowding down. I mean, so we get the data to determine whether there's crowding, and then devote the resources that we need to get the crowding down, as opposed to reallocating the technology to reallocating the buses that have the technology so that people can determine whether the bus is crowded or not. I mean, so you understand the distinction I'm making?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say that resources should be allocated just for the sake of technology and data collection, but it was more of assuming that the equipment and the operators are available to meet that safe safe capacity service level. Given that, should we recommend that there be extra effort? Say there's more vehicles needed in the South Side to be able to capture the data. Should we recommend that, in fact, they have some transfer, have a deadhead from a North Side garage all the way to the South Side in order to have that additional capacity of the real time? But again, I agree. Yeah, the priority is the operation as on time and as safe as possible.
Yeah, and
So-
I would say deadheading me. I probably wouldn't deadhead. I'd just like do it the next day, but that's my take on it. Because almost by definition, deadheading implies some lack of efficiency. But maybe I'm being a little stringent. And my definition.
I think you're right, Len, and your sensibility has been correct all along. If you have a full bus, you are spreading COVID-19. There's just no question about that.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, and please, Stefan, stop us when we get too down in the weeds. So even with masks, you're saying that you're spreading? I mean, there's like a small percentage that is going to be escaping, and that you're going to be spreading with full bus.
I think masks help a lot, and I think other kinds of personal behavior help a lot as well. But if you've got every seat in a bus filled, let alone standing room, I think it's it's problematic. And I've been riding the buses, and I'm at high risk. I mean, I don't, I separate myself from the population risk and think, I think of them separately. But the T is important, but this is a bigger challenge than many people realize. And we're going to see that with the states that have reopened. They're about to get slaughtered. I want to refine the one note at the bottom about Chelsea and transportation fine particles. So I just want people to understand that the innate immune system integrates all of the factors that make people ill through the innate immune system. So it could be underlying diabetes or heart disease or some other health condition. It could be genetics in some people's cases. It could be it could be ultrafine particles from transportation. All of those will drive increases in COVID-19 and the seriousness of the outcomes. It's not just transportation fine particles, but Chelsea has the second most surface transportation pollution after Somerville in Massachusetts. It's a lot more than most places, and they have severe overcrowding in their housing. They have people that don't have easy access to medical care. They have people that are not part of information systems on how to protect themselves and the people in their households. They have some people with substance abuse. They have many people with high work exposures. All of those things, including the ultrafine particles, add up to a greater drive of COVID-19 disease and more serious outcomes. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I'm assuming you can see my screen. Is that an adequate addition?
Yes. Yeah, and you might just add underlying chronic disease or residential crowding. I mean, just to show that it's multiple things. I don't want people to interpret this as a unique cause. It just is an additional substantive increase in the things driving risk. And that can be done later, Stefan. You're running the meeting. I don't want to.
I thought that was important enough to make a live addition. I mean, I didn't edit the notes from a meeting, but I did want to add that as a clarification.
Thank you.
I think that's important for the record.
Yeah, I want to be clear for people on this stuff and not lead anyone astray. Thanks.
Absolutely, I agree. Carl and Craig, haven't heard much from you, which is fine, but any comments or additional things you want to add from the subcommittee?
Nothing to add, and no questions that haven't already been asked.
Okay. I'll let Craig speak up if he wants to. Just want to make sure that we're giving you your chances to speak. I think the final thing that I want to mention as part of the subcommittee report is something that's come up more recently than the meeting we had of the subcommittee on June 9th, which is the back to normal full schedule for keelless commuter rail, which was just yesterday. The summer schedules went into effect, and I'm already getting reports that the amount of PPE to go around for the keelless employees, particularly the on the train crew members, meaning conductors, is absolutely inadequate. There's at North Station in particular, no supply once the initial round of work starts at the beginning of the morning, leaving a number of conductors that I've heard from with no access to PPE unless they are bringing it with them, but there's no information being given about what amounts of PPE are on hand at the keelless facility. So I think that's something that I'm going to be following very closely. I've got concerns about not only the health of keelless employees, but if there's not enough PPE to go around, what kind of interactions the keelless employees, who are still passing up and down the aisles of the commuter rail coaches, would have on public health of the customers. So more to come on that, but that was a very recent development since the summer schedule and full service levels just started yesterday.
So when you say PPE, I mean, is it gloves, masks? What are they not getting?
Actually, I'm glad you asked because I have a visual to share that came from a commuter rail conductor. This was the middle of the afternoon availability for all of the PPE at North Station.
So
most of the empty box of gloves, no more. I believe the green bowl was originally filled with masks and some earplugs and some hand sanitizer. This is as of this photo is from about 4 hours ago at this point, 3 hours ago. And the person gave me permission to share this publicly, by the way. And this is the second day of full service. So it wasn't even like it should be a surprise. Picture speaks 1,000 words.
Yeah, well, I mean, a picture's a picture. I mean, I hear you. Look, I'm skeptical of everything, Stefan. I mean, so it's not simply this. I mean,
that's fine.
It's just all data has to be kind of verified for me. I mean, this is a piece of data. So it would be good to talk to Keolis, and we can
that's planned. Absolutely right.
We can reach out and I think maybe some of us can have some one-on-one conversations with people that we know and see if they are aware of what's going on, because the goal is to make things better, and we don't even have to get credit for it, but we just need to make things better. And even if we don't have it publicly known that we're the ones that did it, we know some people we can reach out to and say, here's what we're seeing, or here's what we're hearing. I mean, tell us what your take on it is, and try to give us some evidence that things are better. So I'll reach out, and I'm sure you can too, Stefan, and then have asked them if they're willing to come and talk with us about how they're dealing with COVID, in a more public forum.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm planning on reaching out, but I hope you will as well.
Sure. Yeah,
and I definitely do not intend to represent only one side. I want to hear from both sides. But it was just coming today, and my intention is not to be inflammatory or derogatory in any way. This was just a one point of data, as you pointed out exactly right. There's both sides of a story to be heard. So So I apologize if I'm only painting the picture as bleak without a full understanding of the situation. So thank you for that.
No, and that was my point to me. I think it's right to do that. I mean, and we're going to give the presumption, to what we've seen, because that's the best thing to do with respect to preventing more harm if there's any harm going on. I mean, but at the same time, we need to talk to folks who can do something about it. I mean, and so we'll talk and report back at the next MCOP meeting, or before.
Yep, absolutely. Now I'm doing a time check. It's 6:21. Unless anyone else has more things for the subcommittee report, I think we can conclude that part and get into the late part under reports on external meetings, old business, new business, and that would be again, unless anyone wants to do any more discussion about the subcommittee, I'll pull up the letter draft that you want to discuss, Len. How's that sound, everybody?
Well, I would say maybe let's do the elections, and just in case that takes us longer than we think it will, and then the rest of it, I mean the letter, and then the old business, new business.
That sounds good. Carl, would you be willing and able to, or actually, as co-chair, do we? I forget the mechanics of.
Well, normally someone else would nominate someone else to be co-chairs.
Okay,
when we had this discussion, Carl wasn't willing to. You were willing to. It would require an exception to the bylaws, and it's really a matter of how we want to formalize that exception. And so then we need another person. I had said that I didn't want to do it because I just didn't want to be chair of a lot of things. I would prefer to do it rather than change the bylaws, but at the same time, I am willing to change the bylaws, and maybe not so much for an exception, but maybe for making the terms longer. And so I put that out there for discussion. Do people want to entertain the notion of making the ability to be a co-chair for longer? That was phrased poorly. Making the term of a co-chair longer. So instead of being every 6 months, it could be a year, and they have the ability to run for a second year contiguously. Now, let me just say one other thing. No one's forced to do anything, all right? So I don't want the fact that we would be saying, well, these come in units of a year, that you feel, okay, well, I only want to do 6 months, but now I'm signing up for a year. And it's like, we can't force you to do anything. I mean, you get involved and you decide for whatever reason, family reasons, work reasons, you can no longer be co-chair. That's just it. I mean, you're not kicked off the committee or anything. No one's going to be upset with you. It's just, okay, life has changed. You no longer want to be co-chair. But it just gives us a mechanism by which we can have longer co-chairs without making exceptions. Because I'm always a little wary about making exceptions, because then it really comes down to who has. It just comes down to more a matter of influence as opposed to rules. So that's it.
Hey, it's Craig. I'll make a motion here. Let's keep because there's kind of two different things. There's how long terms are for, and then how many consecutive terms can you have?
Yeah.
So rather than messing with two different bylaws, I make a motion to extend the term of a co-chair for up to 4 years, meaning up to 2 years, which would be up to 4 consecutive 6-month terms.
I like that idea, Craig. I like that idea a lot. Yeah, that's good. And so we did get I would say these bylaw changes really require like two-thirds votes, of the current members that are participating. So I'll second that motion. So then So usually then you open up for discussion. So
Discussion from everyone, anyone.
This is Wig. I like this 6-month unit, so I'm not opposed to having consecutive terms, but I would like us to confirm with the person and the committee when we extend them each time, rather than have a. I think it would be unfair to tell someone they're doing it for 2 years. Without reconsideration.
No,
Yes.
you still have to have a formal vote, election of co-chairs every 6 months.
Yeah.
All this does is just allow for someone to have 4 consecutive 6-month runs.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, I love the way it's been running. I think people have done a really excellent job. But we're also a little bit short bodies, notwithstanding that I think the quality of the committee is really exceptional, and I appreciate it.
Karen, Carl?
Yeah, it's Carl. I think that's a simple and helpful change to make.
It's Karen, I'm fine with it.
Brian?
This is Brian. I'm fine with it too. I really have no concern at all about term limits. I think Craig mentioned 2 years. I would have no concerns if you were even beyond that. I think as long as we have a periodic evaluation, which is a 6-month kind of check-in. At that point, to me, it doesn't matter if somebody wants to serve in that capacity longer than 2 years. I really have no problem with that either. So I'm on board if that's what everybody else is thinking.
Yeah, you have an alternative agenda that I can tell, Mr. Langevin. So I'm determined to get you on as chair.
I'm not worried if anybody is trying to sit in the co-chair position and consolidate power, as Len's concerned about. So.
Yeah, as long as you don't have to do it. I know what's going on there. You're not fooling me. Yeah.
Oh, too bad. I was accidentally muted while I was giving an evil laugh, but no, I'm joking. Just a quick question for Karen and for Wig. Would either of you consider being nominated for the co-chair position?
I respectfully decline.
This is Wig. I'm okay with it. My capacity is occasionally pinched, but honestly, I don't think the co-chair is the hardest job here. I think it's the information content that many of you put into the committee. And, we get great technical assisting with Stefan. Although I'm a little worried, Stefan, if you get more technical, you may disappear into the system like Max Headroom.
How do you know I haven't already? No. So I heard Wig say that he would accept being nominated. I'm certainly willing, given the support for the bylaws being amended, but I'm also, as Len was saying, in favor of if we find that we don't need to amend the bylaws. But I believe besides the current co-chairs, myself and Carl, under the current bylaws, that would mean, Len, you said you were willing. Wig said he was willing. Does that mean that we should proceed with the nomination and a vote for Len and Wig? Is that what I'm hearing?
Make the nomination and I'll decide. It's kind of like me. It's like we're ordering at a restaurant and I see a couple of things on the menu and I need to decide. And it's not until the wait person comes up to me that I'll decide. So make the nomination. Well, I'll either accept it or not.
I make a motion to nominate Wig Zamor first.
It's Carl, I'll second.
So we have a nomination for you, Wig, that you said you'd be willing to accept.
Yep.
Would somebody be willing to make a motion for a second nomination?
Do we want to do...
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we electing a slate or are we electing co-chair by co-chair?
Either way is fine.
Either way is fine.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to accept a nomination and continue to be the co-chair. I just want to give the chance to not have to modify the bylaws, but I'm willing and hopefully I'm able.
Stefan, I'll nominate you for another term. I think you've done a great job. So if you're interested, I guess I'll put out a nomination.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I'll second that too. I mean, Len is terrific, but honestly, I wonder if we're losing power because he's already sitting on the MPO and, you know, head of RTAC, and that's awfully important for this committee to have Len putting his energy into that. And apparently, he's got some duties in his hometown as well. So, I mean,
Yes,
I'm happy
congratulations
either
again
way.
on that, Len.
What was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Go ahead, Wig.
So I'm happy either way. I just think, you know, either way we're employing Len 100% of his spare time.
Yeah. Well,
And I was saying congratulations, Len, congratulations on being elected selectman, select person.
Yeah,
Oh,
I hear you.
congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Hey, that's great.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. I'm content. Why don't we do a vote? Yeah, I'm content with we'll need to change the bylaws to allow Stefan to do another term. You know, so we need to have a 2/3 vote on that. So that should come first. And so I'll make a motion to amend the bylaws to allow up to 4 consecutive 6-month terms.
I'll second that.
This is Craig. I'll second.
Wig. But Craig can do it if he wants.
Yeah.
But it was Craig. I think it's Elmo at this point.
And so I guess we had discussed that, right? Any more discussion on that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So what's next? Do we make a
We
motion
vote.
to elect
But we vote on
me
that.
and Wig?
No, we vote on that bylaws change.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's
and we
correct.
need 2/3 on that. And so
Yeah, we should do a roll call on that. Stefan, if you don't mind.
Okay, I will do a roll call. Okay, I'll go first. And on the point of amending the bylaws, I abstain because I feel like it, as the current co-chair, I should abstain from voting on an amendment to the bylaws that would allow me to continue. I just feel like that's the right thing to do. So Brian, yay or nay on amending the bylaws?
Yay.
Carl?
Yay.
Craig?
Yay.
Len?
yes.
Karen?
Yay, verily yay. As
Right.
Danny Kaye would say.
Yes.
That's unanimous with 1 abstention.
Sure.
So the vote to amend the bylaws as so mentioned passes. So do I hear a motion for nominating a pair of individuals for the next 6 months as part of a bylaw change for up to 4 consecutive 6-month terms as co-chair?
I want to do them separately. You know,
Oh, okay.
So
That
yes.
sounds good.
Yes, yes. So I'll nominate you for a 3rd term.
You're making a motion to nominate me? And
I'll
we have
make a
to have
motion.
second, is that right?
Yeah, I make a motion
Okay.
to nominate. You know.
Is there a second?
This is Craig. I'll second.
And so therefore that I am nominated. Okay. Do I hear a motion to nominate a second co-chair?
Well, we should have this.
Proceed with the motion. Just do a roll call.
Well, and let's do a vote on you. You know,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We got to clear that
voting
motion
on-
first before we do the next motion. Yeah.
Right.
Fair enough. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys help out with this stuff because I haven't fully read Robert's Rules of Order cover to cover. Okay, voting on accepting Stefan Wunsch as a co-chair for additional time. I will abstain for reasons previously mentioned. Brian?
Yes.
Carl?
Yay.
Craig?
Yay.
Len?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Wig?
Yes.
Unanimous with one abstention. Thank you. I accept the nomination for co-chair continuing on for potentially another 2 years in 6 months terms. Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to nominate a second Rider Oversight Committee co-chair? I will make a motion to nominate Wig.
I'll second that.
So let's to vote on Wig Seymour as the second co-chair for the Rider Oversight Committee, again for an initial period of 6 months, but to be extended in 6 month increments up to 2 years. Calling a vote, I'll call on me. I vote yay. Brian?
Yay.
Carl?
Yay.
Craig?
He gave a visual thumbs up.
Okay, Craig, can you unmute and say it again?
Sorry, my cell phone's going on me. That's a yay. Can you hear me?
Yep, got it. Thank you. Len?
No.
Karen?
Yes.
Wig?
Yes, but I'm viewing this as 6 months.
That's fine.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, that was 6 yes votes and 1 no vote. The motion carries, and Wig Seymour is elected as the second co-chair for the upcoming 6 months initially. So thank you all very much. If I didn't miss anything, I think that concludes the election of new co-chairs, and we should move on to the letter draft that Leonard has. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I will bring that up on the screen. This is the same draft that we were viewing earlier. So I can find it. There we are. Again, let me know if this is not a good size. If you want me to zoom, blow it up, whatever. I guess there we go. How's that, everybody? Any complaints?
It's legible for me, thanks.
Okay. Again, for Karen's benefit, Len, do you want to summarize real quick? Or Karen, are you all set from the description at the beginning of the meeting?
Well, I mean, I can read it quickly. I won't read the whole thing. I mean, but essentially, it's like, I mean,
please.
Dear members of the Boston MPO, below are the comments from the MBTA Rider Oversight Committee. Though we didn't offer any suggestions to include in the universe of proposed studies in this cycle, we nonetheless support the MPO selected studies. Specifically, we are enthusiastic about the following studies. And there's a pedestrian, improving pedestrian variables in the travel demand model, access to CDBs, Central Business Districts Phase 2, the future of the curb Phase 2. Andrew Clark actually talked with us about both of those. MPO staff-generated research. Oh, and the other one is informing the big ideas behind the MPO scenario planning process. And then the second point is we continue to be impressed with the level of outreach to the public in various ways in order to seek input into the process, especially at the earliest stage of the UPWP development cycle. And they have done a lot on that, and they are continuing to work on that. Kate White is a wonderful person who really is kind of forward thinking and making it a point to reach out to communities that don't normally participate in the UPWP, which is somewhat obscure, but she's really trying to make it less obscure. And the third one is finally given our interest in and support of the MBTA. We appreciate the continuing commitment to the MBTA as evidenced in the following. And there are like 7, 8 different things that are MBTA specific, including us, the Rider Oversight Committee, which is one reason I think it's important for us to get this letter out every time the UPWP comes out. So And as always, look forward to seeing the results of the studies. That's it.
I have to commend you, Len, publicly, because I think the depth and breadth of this letter, while still maintaining one page, is astonishing. So I am beside myself with that's the wrong expression. I'm sorry. I'm just so impressed with this. I fully support this message, and the elements that you've included in here are
it's all the size of the font.
Spectacular,
Stefan. It's the font. It's the size of the font.
Right, sure. No, it's so very well done, Len. What can I say? I've said too much already.
Thank you, Stefan. I appreciate that. So maybe we could use a little more.
I got your check yesterday, by the way. I'm joking. Joke.
Gonna go to jail. Oh,
that was totally a joke.
I know.
No, but seriously, really astounding work on this. It's wonderful.
Well, thanks. So I might wordsmith it a little more, but the deadline is the end of the month, and so I'll probably send it in tomorrow or Thursday. I'll sleep on it and maybe wordsmith it a little bit and send it in.
You've heard my comment on it. Discussion from other folks?
Yeah, this is Wig. So, I'm certainly going to back this completely based on faith in Len. I think the rest of us really haven't looked at things that are here versus the things that are not here. But I know Len has put a lot of energy into this and have faith in that and want to support it. The one comment I want to make, I've made before, and that is that Title VI is relied upon because it's a law. It's a civil rights law. But it is not the same population as the EJ Executive Order of President Clinton. The EJ Executive Order of President Clinton goes more to the immigrant population than Title VI does. Title VI was done earlier. And especially right now, it is the environmental justice community that's getting slaughtered by COVID-19 and by exposures to transportation pollution. And, I don't know, Len, if there's a way to put a half sentence in there or something, but the MPO staff is supposed to pay attention to the full weight of both of those, and they religiously choose to just focus on Title VI. And the executive order is an executive order in force. It's just not a law. It's an executive order. And so I think that while it's rarely made explicit by staff at 1010 Park Plaza to people who don't understand these subtle differences, it's a big difference if you're an immigrant community like Chelsea right now.
I'll have to go back and look, but I know if they're not referring to the executive order, I mean, they certainly take that into account when developing the metrics made for their studies. I mean, in fact, we're doing reassessment. I mean, that's not the right term for it, but we're reworking the metrics, and all the EJ communities are the focus, in determining those metrics, and so to a large extent, that's the case when they do the service equity analysis, for the MBTA, but also that fifth bullet, informing the big ideas, the scenario planning process and disparate impact metrics, that's going to take into account the EJ communities, and so whether it is something that they refer to explicitly, meaning that they cite the executive order, they still do take the EJ communities into account.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, and I'm glad to hear it. I know when you were on that environmental justice committee, I think Allie was one of the two people running it. I went to the first meeting at Northeastern, and I asked them explicitly about that, and they just kind of refused to give the EJ executive order explicit weighting in their public framing. So I'm glad to hear they're paying attention to it, but I think it's very important.
Yeah, well, this is the UPWP, and so I would say if we want to do proposed studies, we can certainly do that in the next cycle. I mean, as I said, right now, I mean, they are working on the metrics and reworking the metrics.
Yeah.
And so
Well,
now,
it does say, excuse me, Len, it does say in your second line of the second half, MBTA Title VI program monitoring. It doesn't say anything about EJ 12898.
no, because that's just not what's listed. I mean, so if you want to point out that that's not there, I mean, that could be done. And I'm not sure how it worded. And you're certainly welcome, to send your own letter. Because they accept input on everyone.
I'm going to say the perfect is the enemy of the good. I think Len's stuff is good, maybe not perfect. Let's go with the good. And Wig, you send a separate letter, and maybe somebody else will sign on.
Yeah, I can send a separate letter, but it's not the same thing as this committee recognizing that executive order.
But maybe you can write the letter in the next 6 months, the next cycle. Or you and Len write it together.
No, I'm fine.
But Len's put a lot of effort into getting this done. So what I'm saying is we can't, as I'm going to say it again, the perfect is the enemy of the good. If you wait for perfection, nothing will ever get done.
Okay.
Are we at a point where we should make a motion to accept as written, or do we need to have refinements done and then approve via email before the deadline?
So I'll make a motion to end discussion and put it to a vote.
I'll second that motion. Okay, so I'm all of a sudden having a brain fart. A motion and a second. Do we need to vote on ending the discussion and voting on accepting the letter? You think I would know this?
I think one vote's fine. I don't think we have to be too fancy.
Okay. Okay. Let's call a vote on accepting the letter as written. With Len, you said you might make minor but not substantive changes, just wordsmithing. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, I mean, I will see how I can phrase it, to bring up Wig's concern. I think what I might do is I might have a conversation with someone on there, because I'm just not sure if this is the vehicle for that comment now. It's certainly, like I said, with the work that they're doing, on metrics, the door is open for us to work on taking into account what's affecting all kinds of communities in here. And I just, I'm a little concerned about changing it in a way to make that point when, if you're kind of going off topic, I don't know. I'm befuddled here, but at a minimum, I will just make minor changes. At a maximum, I'll figure out some way to add in what Wig is talking about.
Yeah, so I'll second the motion to leave this at Len's discretion and accept it, and give Len authorization to send it for us.
Okay, well, if I heard it right, Wig, your concerns were the most significant, so I'm happy to call a vote on approving it with corrections that Len sees fit. I mean, would that be part of the vote? Is to give.
Yeah, I don't want to make
inherent
too big
approval
a
for
deal of this. You know, I don't want to make too big a deal of it. I felt bound to bring it up as I do from time to time because the differential treatment of these things has been consistent over the last 15 years. But I'm happy leaving it at Len's discretion and just voting and seconding the motion in that form.
Okay. Any final discussion? I know we already had a motion to end discussion, a motion which was seconded to end discussion and vote. So going once, going twice. Otherwise, I will call a vote on this. Hearing no more concerns, I vote to approve. Brian?
Approve.
Carl?
Approve.
Len?
Approve.
Karen?
Approve.
Wig?
Yes.
Unanimous approval. So Len, thank you so very much.
Thanks, Len.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. No
Yeah,
problem.
if I could
well
just,
done.
I'm sorry, if I could just add a footnote. You know, I think everybody's aware of this, but in communities with thousands of immigrants per square mile, including Somerville and Chelsea, if you haven't been to a local immigrant defense committee meeting, I think it's hard to imagine the fear that some of these young immigrant families live under. Notwithstanding that the communities themselves are supportive, there are federal agents that from time to time just, you know, pop in and bust people who are behaving perfectly well and have been here for years. And there is an ongoing level of battle in many of these urban immigrant-rich communities. And I think it's hard, you know, as it is for other afflicted portions of our society, to imagine the pressure and fear that some of them live under.
You've got to vote in November. Remember that. Vote early and often. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with you know who, and the immigrants will be screwed for the next 2 years.
Well, as I said, I mean the folks at MPO, the CPS, I mean, they care about everyone. They really do. I mean, and MPO is going beyond, I mean, what the feds are requiring when it comes to doing, you know, the disparate impact and the disproportionate burden assessments. I mean, and they are reworking the metrics in order to make them more sensitive. And so we're all welcome to participate in that process. I mean, maybe what I'll do is try to get Betsy Harvey to come to one of our meetings. Maybe I'll ask her to come to the next meeting and can give a review on what they're doing with the metrics, and we can talk with her about the Title VI versus the executive order need, and to what extent they're taking, you know, both into account in determining, you know, how we reevaluate the metrics. Because I don't want to seem dismissive of your point, Wig, because I understand your point and I agree with it. So there we go.
Yeah, and to Karen's point, you know, there was some surprise news in the last week when Roberts voted twice on the Supreme Court against the president's efforts, and one of them was specifically about the Dreamers. So anyway, so, you know, so it's kind of a constant push back and forth, and that's fine. I appreciate the time, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. I posted a few minutes ago, actually I posted about 10 minutes ago on the YouTube chat, welcoming anyone who was watching online who wanted to use the public comment period, which I said was coming up. I haven't seen any reply back on the chat, which I'll show right here. There are 2 people watching online. So again, going once, going twice sort of thing. Barry, would you like to take advantage of the second of the 2 public comment periods?
No comment at this time.
Okay. Is there any other, I know we kind of jumped over the reports on external meetings, old business, new business, but unless anyone jumps in on YouTube with a public comment, maybe we should wrap up the meeting just talking about any other external meetings, old business, new business. How does that sound, everybody?
Good.
Any external meetings that anyone wants to report? Any old business? Yeah, Len, go ahead.
Hold on, I mean, I can't. There was one. There's one this morning. I'm trying to remember what the topic was. Okay. So actually, well, 2 things, two new things. I mean, so I am going to be Arlington's representative on the advisory board, and that is irrespective of whether of my position on the select board. And so even if I weren't elected, I would be the town's representative now on the advisory board. So we got a little more on the advisory board. And I am also now on the steering committee for the CTS is coming up with a strategic plan. And so I will be keeping folks updated about that. And so I mean, these notions of what we value, we can come into play on that. And so anytime I can drive a message, in an appropriate way, I will, and I will convey, the messages from the group, as requested, because I don't have to agree to something, to still put it out there. But my deal is when I put it out there, I feel that I need to put it out there in a way that is strategic, because if you aren't, there comes a point where you make a point and you're dismissed. And I don't want us to get to that point. And so sometimes, even if I know that a point needs to be made, if it's not the right time to make it, I won't do it, because I don't want to risk being dismissed. So that's it. I'm done.
Okay. Anything else from anyone else?
Congrats again, Len. You're getting elected to everything.
Well,
Yeah, I know.
well, no, these are appointments, so yeah, but yeah.
You're seizing power then.
It's all because of that profile picture. It's just so compelling.
No, I think it's just once you've been around for a while, and people get to know you, and know what you know. So.
Well, it's also because you're very committed and well-read and enthusiastic about what you do.
Yeah, I like to think so. Thank you. I try, and I love reading.
So I think people will have noticed today that there was a new option proposed for Harvard-Alston roadway reconfiguration, and it's Secretary Pollock explained pretty clearly in the press that it's just an additional option to be considered as they move forward with Harvard-Alston. And even though it's roadway, I mention it because, effectively Harvard-Alston is a multimodal site. And how the roadway balances with transit, balances with walking and biking, balances with access to green space and river is probably an important debate, both locally in Alston, but also regionally, because it is the project that's getting the most attention in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Wig, because I hadn't seen that release today.
I was actually glad to see that it's an option to be considered, that it wasn't just kind of dropped out of the sky as the new solution. So I appreciated that that aspect of it in what I read early this morning.
Question, Wig, what would be the easiest way to find that on the MassDOT website or on the MBTA website or?
It's in the Boston Globe. It's in the Boston Globe.
I gotcha. Do they link to the official
It is a
project page?
It is a MassDOT project.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
And it was also covered at the FMCB or the MassDOT board meeting yesterday.
Excellent. Thank you. I will find the link and I'll post it on the YouTube video of this meeting so people can refer to that. Okay, at past 7 o'clock, we got a late start, but I don't want to hold people up longer than I expected, and we had originally even thought we would be done at 10 of 7. So unless there's any other old business, new business, I'm ready to accept a motion to adjourn. We haven't seen anyone else join, post on the YouTube chat.
I'll move to.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Wig.
Yeah. So moved, and I want to thank Barry for coming today as well.
Thank you.
Yes, the same for me, Barry. I'm thrilled that you could join us. You're like family, as far as I'm concerned, and we were missing you during the previous months. So I hope you can be a regular visitor, even though we don't have the pleasure of your company in person.
Thank you very much.
Also grateful for Wig to stepping up to co-chair. Thanks very much.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, Wig. And thank you, Carl, for being the co-chair for the past 12 months with me.
Yes, Carl. Thanks. Great job.
Yeah, I agree. Terrific job.
Thanks, Carl.
For the record, I mean, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I guess this means that there won't be any changes in the subcommittee chairs. Is that correct?
Well,
actually, never mind. Craig had to leave early, so Craig can't answer for himself, but we'll cover that during the first subcommittees, I guess.
Yes. All right.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Okay, so someone was about to make a motion to adjourn.
Yes, I
Let's get
did.
out of here. Let's get out of here.
And second.
I have another meeting I have to go to. So.
No problem. It was seconded, so thank you all. Again, thanks for putting up with the technical glitches that delayed us by quite a few minutes. And
okay, we're going to be leaving now.
I'm hoping I get better.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Good night and goodbye.
Thanks and good night. Gracie.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Stefan.
Hold on, Barry. I'll have to call you back because we've officially ended the meeting, but I can call you right back.
Call me at home.
Yep.